All right, so on this video, like I said, we're going to use the same program, the Advanced Input Verification Program. And what we're going to do is make these into functions so that we don't have to have them in our main program. So to do that, we're going to use how we create a function on here. So the first thing you would type in, and this is outside of the main and actually above the main, you would type in what the return type of variable is going to be. Now, for our first one, we are basically ending up with the variable user input, which is of type string. So we're going to just type in here, we're going to type in the word string, then we're going to type in what our function name is going to be, and we're going to call this one get sentence. And on the function name, the first letter of every word is capitalized. That's, again, not a rule, it's a convention though. So then we're going to open up some parentheses, and in here we're going to tell it what we want to send, what information we want to send to the function. It's called a parameter or an attribute. So in this case, we're going to send it another string, and it is going to be, we're going to call it, we're going to give it the variable name prompt. And then close the parentheses, and we open some curly brackets. So let's take a look at that again. So the first thing we type is the return type of variable. Now, if we weren't going to return any variables, if it was just going to do something, like say we were just going to print some information to the screen, but we don't need anything back, we would type in the word void, which means no return variable. Then we tell it what our function name is, and in the parentheses, we tell it what information we want to give the function so that it knows what to work on. Now you'll notice on main, we send back an integer, and at the end of every main, we always put in this return 0. But we never pass it any parameters. Some programs actually will. Some of the, and you'll see that later if you ever use a compiler that is at the command prompt, which we'll probably do. You'll be able to type in what they call command line operators, which are little codes to tell your program what to do. But right here, we don't need any. Well, right in this get sentence, we just need to know what's called the prompt. So it's almost going to be the same exact thing as what we did down here. So we wrote cout, and then we prompted the user enter a sentence. So in here, we're going to write cout, and then we're going to just write in there prompt. So whatever we send it in this variable prompt is going to get outputted to the screen. And then we're going to write exactly what we had down here, get line cn user input. So get line cn comma user input semicolon. Now here's a problem. Remember, we declared user input down here in main. So this variable is only good while you're in the main function. We're now outside of the main function, so the user input is not a valid variable there. So we're going to have to define it. We're going to call it string, and user input And we're going to do just like we did on the bottom. We're going to say equals and empty quotes. So now we do have a user input variable inside the scope of this get sentence, and that's all we're really sending back is whatever they type in. So we're going to put in return, and instead of 0 we're going to type in user input, and that's it. That's our get sentence function. Now we're going to write another one that is going to give us a number. So we're going to this one's going to return a floating point number. So we're going to write float for what type of number it's going to return. Get number, and again we're going to pass it a string and call it prompt. Open some curly brackets, and we're going to now again we're going to need to define a floating point number for this one. So we're going to call float my float equals 0.0, and then we're going to just like we did in the main function with that while loop, we're going to need to use that again. And actually, on this one, we're also going to need a string that the user types in, and that is going to be my string equals empty quotes, and we also need that the string stream. So we're going to go string stream. We'll name this my s stream, and in the parentheses we're just going to give it double quotes. So now we start our while loop, and again while true, close the parentheses and open some more curly brackets, and we're going to say C out, send them the prompt. I forgot my prompt, and we're going to say, let's see, we need to get line, open parentheses, cin, comma, my string. And then we're going to check to see, we're going to assign my SS stream. We're going to assign that my string. Then we're going to check to see if that string stream will fit into a floating point number. So if, and in parentheses we write my string stream goes into my my float then break. Now if it doesn't, then we're going to write cout invalid number and put a space, close the quotes. And we already have the closing curly brackets for both the while loop and for the function over here. So that's all we need there. And lastly, we need one for the get a character. So again, this is going to return a type char or character. We're going to call it get character, and we're going to pass it a string called prompt. Open some curly brackets, and we're going to say we need a character type called my char equals, in curly brackets, give it a 0. Then we're going to say we also need a string. So we're going to say we need a string called my string, and that equals empty quotes. And that's it. So then we go again, while true, open some curly brackets. And we're going to say cout prompt. And we're going to say get line cn, and we're going to put that into my string. Then we say if my string dot length, open and close parentheses, is equal to 1. Remember that is equal to is 2 equal signs. Then, and we're going to have to open some curly brackets here, we're going to say my char equals my string, and because remember strings are an array of characters, we only want element 0, so in the square brackets we put a 0, and then we say break on the next line. And then there's the curly brackets that close the if statement, the curly brackets that close the while statement, and that's actually, so yeah, underneath the if statement, we want to write cout, and in quote, double quotes, invalid character. Then we close the while loop, and we close the function loop. So there we have our all our functions. So I'm going to go down into main here and delete all of our code except for the system pause and the return 0. Highlight it all, and then hit delete. And just for neatness sake, I'm actually going to put cout end line. That way there we'll get 2 blank lines before we get that message that says hit any key to continue. Alright, so we have our 3 functions, get sentence, get number, and get character. And they are going to return a value type. So we need to have a spot to hold that value when it comes back. So in main, we're going to write, we need first of all a string to hold a sentence. We're going to call that the string equals open and close double quotes. Then we need a float. We're going to call that the float. that equals 0.0. And we have a char that's going to be called the char equals, and that's in curly brackets, 0. So there's our 3 variables. So now we're going to write, we're going to say the string equals get sentence, and then in the parentheses, here's where we would tell it what we want to prompt the user for. So in double quotes, we're going to write enter your name, and we'll put a colon and a space, close the quotes, close the parentheses, semicolon. Then we're going to say the float equals get number. In the prompt, we're going to write how old are you? Close it all up. And for the char, we're going to write the char equals get char. And what could we ask on here? We could ask, do you, oh, you know what? I messed up. It's not get char, it's get character. So in here, do you like doing this? Question mark, space, close quote, close the bracket. And then we're going to write cout and then double quotes, your name is space the string and then quotes, and you are space the float Now, we have a yes or no type answer here, right? So I'm actually going to delete over that. So we're going to say if the char equals, and now for like this comparison, we put the letter into single quotes. If you try double quotes, it'll put that string end string symbol on the end of it, and it won't match. So you have to use single quotes if you're doing a char comparison. So we're going to say if it equals yes, then we're going to write cout hi space, close the quote, then the string you are space the float years old, comma, and space, close that, actually, and you like computer programming. Close the quote and end that one. Else, as it goes on the next line, we're going to write cout. Hi. The string, just most of it's the same. Now I noticed on this one up above, I didn't put a little, right here, I didn't put a space at the beginning there. And what's going to happen, there's not going to be a space between the number and the word you. So I'm just going to go back and put it in there now. So, you are the float years old and don't really like this. And that should be it. Let's give it a run. Oh, error. No. Let's see what I got for errors. Get number must return a value. Get character must return a value. Now, down here, I can highlight the first error message here. It tells you that it's on line 31, so you can go and look over here to find line 31. Otherwise, you can just double click on this and it will put it in the middle. So what we did here is, you see how we told it we were going to return a float, but we never actually said return anything. So underneath our while loop, we're going to write the command return, and we're going to send it my float. And that was actually, the second error was the same exact thing. Get character must return a value. We told it we were going to return a type char. So down here, outside of the while loop, we will write return my char. And now we click run again. Enter your name. I'll use your name, Stefan. How old are you? 16. Do you like doing this? I hope you are saying yes. Hi, Stefan. You are 16 years old and don't really like this. Now, even though you typed in Y, it says you don't really like doing this. That doesn't sound right, right? So let's hit a key and find out what's going wrong with our program. If we come down here, we see that in our if statement, it says if the character equals, and this is a capital Y. So only if you enter a capital Y would it go down and run this. Any other character else that you type would go down into this feature, which says you don't really like doing this. So let's run it again with a capital Y. Let's go, Gary, 50. Do you like doing this? Capital Y. Hi, Gary, you are 50 years old and you like computer programming. Yes, so that one worked right. So, we want to be able to get if the capture this no matter how they enter it, capital Y or lowercase y. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change my function from get character. I'm going to call this get up character. And then where it says my character equals my string, right here, I'm actually going to use that function. I think we used it before. It's called toUpper. Put it in parentheses. End. Now what that should do is it should convert whatever is in my string's position 0, it should convert it to an uppercase character if it's something that's uppercase. If you typed in a 1, it won't give you an exclamation point because that's not really an uppercase 1. But if you type in a letter, a lowercase letter, it should give you an uppercase letter back. But because we did change the name of our function up here, we now have to change the name of it down here, and it was called getUpCharacter. So let's run it again. Enter your name, Gary. How old are you? 50. Do you like doing this? And this time I'm entering a lowercase y, but it should still come out correct. Hi Gary, you are 50 years old and you like computer programming. So there we go. We fixed that problem. And I think that's it. Now these are some features some code that you're going to be using quite a bit, prompting the user and then taking their input. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to add those into your program without having to retype it or copy and paste it. In fact, actually, that's what these include files are. Pre-made code that you can just enter in there. So we're going to make our own header file in the next video. So until then, and again, if you're going to just keep going, then you can just keep it. I'm going to use the same program. We're going to start off with the same file. But I do encourage you to maybe go in and ask for different pieces of information. Ask for, get the first name, get the last name, maybe the age, address, phone number, all that kind of stuff. Fool around with this stuff a little bit. Change the input. Make sure that it always looks neat when you're getting it and printing it and putting out the information. And that'll get you used to typing in all these different variable names and calls. If you don't do that, you're not going to remember them, and every time you're going to have to go back and look it up. So fool around with it a little bit. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.